So I'm Sam Oakley from Informa Tech, and I'm here with Caroline Gabriel, Research Director from Analysys Mason.
Hi.
Caroline, hi. So as an industry pioneer, Analysys Mason have recently written the white paper around challenges and opportunities around new calling. Really keen to hear a bit more just about that white paper.
Yes, it was a really interesting paper. We follow obviously operators' voice models, business cases in quite a lot of detail, but I think it's this year that 5G new calling has really become quite prominent. So we believe that we published one of the sort of earliest, most comprehensive papers that's really trying to map the capabilities of 5G new calling to some of those tangible commercial opportunities. So yes, we do look at the technology and what new calling enables, but core to the paper was looking at what enterprises are doing, what sort of capabilities they're looking for in their connectivity, and then mapping those to what 5G new calling could support, and then comparing that with other solutions to see, where the sweet spots were. So I think that's quite a valuable exercise for enterprises that may be interested in new calling, as well as obviously operators thinking about what they may develop in terms of offerings for business or consumers as they start to introduce the services.
Got it. Sounds really interesting, and clearly lots of opportunities for operators with new calling. I guess just thinking about the kind of comparison with OTTs a little bit, what does new calling offer and enable for both consumers and enterprises that's unique, I suppose?
Yes, and it's such an important question because, of course, we can't underestimate the impact of the OTT applications, and they have a lot of advantages in terms of their ease of use, and everyone has them. So new calling really has to be able to provide something that's significantly different, and we think it does in several respects, largely because of its use of the IMS data path. That, to get slightly techie, that supports two-way real-time data, unlike most other solutions, and that just enables a new richness and speed of response for services, which is particularly important if they're business critical in any way, but also really enriches a consumer experience. So something like when you're using a language translation app, as lots of us do, talking to people from other countries, it's doing it in real time. So there isn't that sort of gap. It's much more akin to having a real conversation. So that would be something that you could see the value for consumers, but also for businesses. And there are many other examples of its capabilities. It has quite enhanced support for a very rich variety of multimedia assets. It can support, for instance, quite enhanced augmented reality and AI chatbots. These aren't unique, but because of the combination of capabilities it has, it will take them to a different level to most of the apps that you might use for similar purposes. So we think once people kind of have their hands on it, they'll see the difference in the experience. And that in turn will encourage developers to create new applications for it, because it can, it can do that bit more.
Very interesting. And I guess just finally thinking about kind of the industry as a whole, what role should kind of network solution providers, chipset manufacturers, operators, and all industry players kind of coming together? How can they work together to build on these opportunities and overcome some of the challenges?
Yeah, and that's, in a way, that's the most critical question, because we've all seen amazing technologies before that, in theory support great services, but if the ecosystem isn't there, particularly if the devices aren't there or the developers aren't there, then they don't get the reach that's required. So it is really important. We've seen the start of it in China, where the main market where 5G new calling is commercial, and part of that was enabled by having a very strong ecosystem with all those parties that you mentioned being part of that. But that has to spread, obviously, on a global basis. I think the support from the handset chipset companies and the device makers themselves will be very, very important. And they in turn will be driven by seeing the demand and the opportunity to offer something richer for their users, but also by seeing a big base of applications and services coming along. So the flexibility of the platform is important. But there's a lot of work to be done. And I think that will be driven by big operators who are starting to deploy 5G core with IMS and need to have these monetization models in place for voice and messaging. and it'll be driven by the big vendors who have put a lot of the effort into creating these services and making sure that they work within a standard framework and so on. So I think the next couple of years we will see those big companies working hard to establish test beds, to show case studies, to work on various collaborations that will then start to convince the broader market that this is a technology that's worth investing their time and effort into.
Great, exciting time.
Yes, indeed.
Great. Well, Caroline, thanks for joining me for the interview, and thanks for joining us at the 5G Core Summit 2023.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been great.